You see me battered, bruised, but never broken. Through the fire, hope still spoken. There's a strength inside me that keeps me strong. So I'll keep pushing, I'll keep holding on. Through it all, I won't fall. I've got power, standing tall. Battered, bruised, but not broken. I'm unshaken, still unshaken.
Welcome to season 9 of Battered Bruised, Not Broken. I'm super excited that you are here with us tonight. Listen, we are on episode 11, which means we only have one more episode to go. Listen to me, it's crazy. How did we get here so soon? But the time is flying. I'm excited because guess what? We have yet again another powerful woman who is right here with us tonight, ready and excited to share her story with us. And I can't wait to introduce her to you. But before we go any further, I want to give you an opportunity to go right ahead, share this link with a friend, share, a co-worker, a next door neighbor, share it with your aunt, share it with your uncles, share it with your cousins, share it with your nieces, share, because you just don't know who can be impacted by what she has to share with us here tonight. Okay, so I'm not going to hold her back any longer because she's pumped, she's excited, and she is in the room. Wherever you're tuning in from, just go ahead and drop something in the comments and let us know that you are here with us. And let's get ready to introduce to you none other than my guest speaker for tonight. I'm super excited to introduce you to her, and none other than Lacey-Ann Campbell-Brown. Welcome, Queen. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It is a pleasure. I am blessed. I am grateful and just excited about the lives that will be impacted tonight.
Awesome. Listen, it just keeps getting better. I know you have a story to share, and they're sitting at the edge of their seats. They can't wait to hear what it is that you're about to share with us. And so I don't want to keep them back with that. But before we get into it, let's start from the beginning. I want you to tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So, as you said, my name is Lacey-Ann Campbell-Brown. I'm a girl mom times 2. I'm a wife. I'm a medical missionary, faith-based is an ambassador for a woman of God. And what I do as a faith-based wellness coach and medical missionary is to build the kingdom of God using the health message that is available in scripture. So I help Christian moms to prioritize their health, to lose weight and reverse lifestyle illnesses God's way, with the end goal of creating generational health.
Beautiful. And so I love what you said that you do. And how long have you been doing that for?
Which one, the medical missionary or the wellness coach?
The medical missionary.
So I actually recently graduated, so that would be around 6 months now. But I've been pushing the health message, but not in the form of building the kingdom. So I started using the health message to build the kingdom around 6 months now.
Okay, beautiful. And so, of course, you have a powerful story. That's why you're here to share with us tonight. But I want to start from the beginning. Let's begin to unpack where it all began for you. And let's start from the beginning. Tell us where it all started.
Okay, so I'll just give a little bit of summary. So I like to say I was born with a silver spoon, which quickly transformed into a wooden spoon with the divorce of my parents. This led me into the dark ages. So list the 10 commandments, I broke all of them. But this quickly also led me into what I call the wilderness or the valley of death, because then I ended up losing, unfortunately or fortunately, 5 family members in 4 short years. And this included my parents. But thank God for God, because He's able to turn your mess into a message and trials into triumph. For with going through all of these experiences, I'm now able to do what I do to empower Christian moms to prioritize their health so that they don't have to walk the same path, as taking care of their health is an act of worship and it's a form of glorifying God. And we do that bearing in mind that we are impacting our generations to come. So we're creating generational health. And that's my story in a nutshell.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so, okay. So you talked about, what you do and how you help women and stuff. And of course, there is a story that got you to where you are today. Let's go back just a few more. You talked about the loss that you had. You had so many different losses, and it was like back to back. How were you able to navigate that, because that's a lot. It's not that you were just grieving one person, but I think you said 5 of them. How were you able to overcome that?
Wow, that was, I think, I think I can, that's the hardest thing that I've ever been through. So in 2020, I lost my aunt, but 3 weeks after I gave birth to my daughter, and she became literally the light within darkness. Then in 2022, I lost my mom, that's December. And then 2024, my dad. 2020, well, the same year, 2024, I lost my uncle and my aunt as well. And basically, my backbone, all the persons that would have been my core people, they were all taken away from me. And at the time, I was also separated in my marriage and I lost my job. So it was just a period, a season of Job, pretty much. How did I get through it? God. I became depressed. I was numb. I was lost. I no longer knew what to do. I had children, but honestly, I felt like I had no reason to live. And one day I was literally just sitting on the couch. I was journaling, going through everything. I was journaling and I would pray. And a lot of times my prayer would just be me kneeling down because I didn't know what to even say. And one day I was listening to YouTube and the song God Is Not Done With Me Yet was playing. And I don't know what happened, but I literally felt like a switch went on. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm alive. And it sounds silly to say I'm alive, but one of the biggest lessons that I can take from having so much losses is that they're the ones who are gone. I'm still here. And so I said, okay, God, if I'm still here and you're not done with me, it means that there's some purpose here for me to do. My work is not yet finished. And my dad was a pastor, my aunt was a teacher. And one thing, after going through so many funerals, you realize that what really matters is the impact that you have on people's lives. And so I'm like, okay, God, if I'm going to do this, I want to do this the right way. And so my focus is glorifying you and impacting so many lives that even if it should rain, people would flock just to be at my funeral. And that literally became my focus. And then I said, okay, God, being that now I want to make impact, but glorify you, I need the blueprint. What do you want me to do? And he asked me, okay, what are the lessons that you've learned? And in going through that, my mission was birthed. So what broke my heart aligned my vision.
I love that line. What broke your heart aligned your vision. That is so profound. That is beautiful. Wow, God is not done with me. That's such an important statement that you shared there. Having gone through all the grief that you did and being able to navigate. And so then, what got you inspired then to get started in what you do now and becoming so passionate about how you do it?
Well, I got mad. I got upset. all of my family members that I lost was due to lifestyle illnesses. What that means is that they all had a choice. Lifestyle illnesses is based on the choices that you've made. You're making day-to-day choices, and it's impacting how long you're going to live and the quality of life that you're going to live. And so when God sent me back to say, okay, what are the lessons that you can take from this? I realized my mom was a deep, strong Christian woman. And I just couldn't understand why God didn't heal her. I'm like, hey, this is one of your biggest servants, your faithful servants. Why wouldn't you heal her? And what I learned is that weak bodies do not win spiritual battles. So she was strong in the spirit, but her body was weak, so it could no longer contain the spirit. And then I started looking around, and I'm like, healing churches that focus on healing, they tend to blossom pretty quickly. And I realized that Christians, a lot of people, they're dying, and nobody is paying attention to what it is that they're putting in their mouth. We're literally digging our graves with our knives and our forks. And in my father's line, everyone, all of his siblings, there's literally only one sibling left, and they all died from diabetes. And so from a tender age, I was always told that I need to be careful because, more than likely I'm going to develop diabetes. And now I had 2 children, and I'm like, so is this never going to end? And I literally drew the line, and I'm like, no, it ends with me. I'm going to break this curse, and it's not going to be passed on to my children, because the habits that I learned, I'm not going to pass it to them. And the easiest way to break that is to be the example, be the sermon. Whatever sermon you have, you need to live it. And so my children will see me living health. They will see me worshiping God through me taking care of myself. And so the passion is that too many Christian moms especially, are losing their lives because of simple things that they can change. And it's a burden to your children. We say everybody is going to die, so it's not a big deal, but it impacts the persons you leave behind. And then if we're all going to die, why would you choose to go out in a wheelchair? Why would you choose to go out with someone having to bathe you and help you up the stairs and probably even wearing diapers? And I went in the Bible. I said, God, there has to be a better way. What is the answer? And he sent me to Genesis, and that's where the journey began. And I wrote a book. Well, the book is not yet published, but I wrote a book soon to be published. And that's really where the passion is. I just don't want to see anyone go through what I went through, knowing that God gave us the answers.
Wow. How old were you when you went through that loss? How old were you then?
For my mom, my mom actually passed 3 days before my birthday. So I was 33 going to 34. So, but it all started when I was 29.
Wow. And so from the age of 29 up until you said 33, right? You were experiencing loss after loss with those, persons within your family. You got mad, you did something. Tell us about, some of these things that you also encountered as you were trying to change, because we understand that change is not always easy. It's necessary, but it's not always easy, because here you are, you've grown up, you've been so accustomed to this particular type of lifestyle, you never even saw it as an issue or a problem, because this is just what everybody does. So you just continue the flow of things. But now you're at a place where you're recognizing, okay, this is not working. How easy, or how was it for you to start to put those things in change, those changes in place? Because I can only imagine, resistance and different things that would have obviously come on board. How were you able to navigate that?
Yes. So firstly, let me say that willpower will not get you there. People ask, how do you stay motivated? You're not always motivated to wake up in the mornings and work out or even eat healthy when everyone around you is probably eating some KFC chicken. So definitely the motivation is not there. For me, what made the biggest difference, in all honesty, was because I went to God. So I said, God, you know all things and you have all the answers. So help me. How can I be healthy? How can I truly represent you and be not just fit for purpose, but fit to finish this race? And he sent me to Genesis, and I realized that, he had an ideal diet. And I'm not saying you should cut out your meat or cut out this. That's not the point. The point is he had a standard. And I asked myself, why did he give the Israelites so many dietary laws? And I realized it was simply that his people are set apart, and it's for us to be an example. So then I accepted, okay, this really matters to you. Beloved, above all things, I wish for you to prosper and have good health, even as your soul prospers. So I knew that he cared. That was number one. Number two, I realized that we were failing in this. And so I said, okay, God, change my palate. Change my palate to desire the foods that are nutritious for my body and that is pleasing to you. In Revelation 3:20, he said he's at the door and he knocks. And if we open the door, then he'll come and sup with us. He'll come and eat with us. But some of us, the foods that we're eating, it's not God-made foods. So you wouldn't even bother inviting Jesus to come and sit with you because it's not appealing to him. And he said that, or his people are still eating from the wrong tree. Adam and Eve ate from the wrong tree, but we're still eating it. And a lot of things that we're consuming, it's no longer food. So one, and it's small steps. It's small steps. These things didn't happen, right off the bat, but it's small steps. So you want to focus on your nutrition, find out what works for you. And this is why I said I invited God. God made me. I'm his masterpiece. I'm his workmanship. He knows what works for me. So there are times when you say, okay, Lacey, don't eat rice. Or, as a Jamaican, we'll be eating rice and peas sometimes 7 days a week. So he said, okay, Lacey, the rice doesn't work for you. Try cutting it down to like on the weekends only or on Sundays and Mondays, and then go from there. So it was a process. Then you want to exercise. You need to move your body. Newton's third law of motion says that whatever is at rest stays at rest unless there's an external force that acts upon it. What that means is if you're sitting down all day, when you get older, you're going to be sitting by force because you did not use your body. And not just that, me exercising, it helps with me sleeping. It helps with mental clarity. It helps with me, having better fun with my children. I am not, if I'm not in a good state of mind, I'm not going to show up good for them. Then I started drinking more water. I was diagnosed with hypertension and I was ridiculously overweight. So I started drinking more water and I went a cold turkey and I cut out all the sodas, all the juices, unless it was homemade, and I only drank herbal teas and water. The next thing is that sunshine. We tend to be afraid of the sun, but it's very crucial to your health. It's also good for boosting your immune system. And so I started my little garden, and that forced me to go outside because when you're watering, you're getting the sunlight, the morning sun. And so I got some sunlight. And then I depended on God for self-control. Self-control is a fruit of the spirit. And it's something, we don't talk about being gluttonous as much as a sin, but it is. God gave us self-control. When you say, I'm going to come for the coffee lovers, they'll say, I can't go a day without my coffee, but that's an addiction. Or you finish eating and I feel for something sweet. Honey, that's an addiction. And these are small things that we do and we don't realize that's an addiction. And it means that you've made it an idol because God doesn't want anything above him. There should be no other God, period. So if that's you, first, you need to repent and turn from your evil ways, because you should be able to go a day without coffee. You should be able to go a day without that Pepsi. And then I got fresh air. Oh my goodness, there is so much beauty in literally just going outside, taking some deep breaths. And when I do that, I realize that I'm able to just admire God's creation. I'm glorifying God and I'm bigging up God, because now I am in a break where I can see God's creation and experience it. I can feel the wind blowing. I realize that we tend to be so busy and in our bags and not in our Bible that we don't get to just pause and take what God has given and created for us and rest. Again, because we're in our bag and we're just trying to get to that next thing, we don't rest enough. And you not resting, believe me, it kills you slowly. The song says slowly and softly. That's what not sleeping does. And let me say this, you can be sleeping and not resting. It's a whole difference. A lot of us go to our bed, but our minds are still racing. And this is how I also discovered the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not just a day for worship that God created. Remember, God said he created the Sabbath for us, meaning it's for our benefit. When you can literally pause from the world, you can put down your phone and say no social media, you can take a break. Do you know what that does for your mental health, your emotional health, even your physical health? You literally feel rejuvenated. So engaging in rest is crucial. And the last thing I'll say is trust in God. Trust in God. Pray. And if you don't know how to trust him, because when I was losing all my family members, I didn't trust God, but I realized that you have to make the decision that you're going to trust God's heart, even when you can't trust his hand, because a lot of times we don't know what God is doing. I remember when my mom passed, the song came, Shattered but Not Broken, and I was so upset. I'm like, I literally shouted, how can I be shattered and not broken? That is so stupid. I literally said that. And then it's like the voice answered me immediately, because the pieces are falling in place. And that's how you can be battered, bruised, but not broken.
You said something right there. You said something right there. I love what you said, because the pieces are falling into place. That statement alone, listen, you're gonna get me excited on that one. But I love that. I love that, because the pieces are falling into place. But it's still really beautiful how you were able to, to turn things around. Now your children, they can see. So what you've really done is you've broken a generational curse, and you've rearranged some things, and you've let the enemy know it ends with me. We're not going to take this forward any longer. You might have walked into it, but you decided that this is going to be the end of it. And so now you are an advocate now for wellness. You are an advocate now for helping women to, to eat healthy, to exercise and everything. Tell us about how that goes, and, the process of helping those women, and how you've been able to assist them on their journeys of changing what the lifestyle that they once had into the lifestyle that God has ordained for them.
Sure. So my personal testimony is that I was able to lose 60 pounds and reverse hypertension using these same principles. So the first thing is for people to see that this is godly. Living healthy is godly. Once you can get that foundation, then things become easier, because now the process of surrendering starts. For example, when it comes to losing weight, I tell people that losing weight, it's more spiritual, mental, and emotional than physical. We see the weight and we want the pounds to go, but it's actually more innate than physical, because we know that we're overeating. A lot of times we're binge watching TV, but we know these things aren't good for us. And so when you surrender and invite God in the process, now you can ask yourself, God will root up what needs to be rooted up. He'll show you the strongholds and say, hey, the reason why you are overweight or you've gotten to a state of diabetes or hypertension is because as a child, you did not feel adequate. You did not feel enough. And so you went into a state of self-pleasing, and this transformed into you eating. So now for you to lose weight, you're addressing your self-pleasing state, and you realize, no, the weight is falling off because you're no longer a slave to all of that. And so it's different for everyone depending on what conditions, you know, they have, but the basic principles are the same. You are acknowledging that living healthy is godly. You are inviting God in the journey, and then you're simply being intentional about what it is that you're doing. But you having God in it all the way, there are little tips and I won't say tricks, but little tips that you'll have that will assist you. And journaling is key. I wasn't a girl that liked to journal, but journaling is key because all your thoughts can be placed on paper, and you can actually understand what's happening with your body. You will see what's happening with your mind. You start questioning, okay, why do I do this? How do I go about doing that? Why does this happen? And the answers will come because God wants you to fulfill his purpose. That's why he created you. We tend to focus on just being fit for purpose. Everybody is about purpose. You know, we talk about David. David was a man after God's heart, and that is true. But David was also fit to finish. Do you realize that it wasn't just the spiritual state of David's heart? Because no ordinary man could fight the battles that David fought. He had to be physically fit. So yes, you may be fit for purpose, but you need to be fit to finish. I mean, if it is that you are a pastor or you're an evangelist or whatever sphere it is that God has called you to, wouldn't he want you to go another 25 years? Does he have that option to have you go for another 25 years? Does he have the option for you to go another 10 years? A lot of us are not giving God that option. And so that's all that is. Surrendering to God and leaning on him for him to use you fully as long as he wants to. And that's really what the process involves. And as I said, the little hints and tips and how you go about things, it's based on a personal level because we are all unique. We're all individuals. And that's why you go back to the creator. He's the manufacturer. He has the blueprint. And he may say, don't eat any carrots, but eat zucchini. To me, he may say, don't eat any rice, eat oats. So it's all an individual approach, pretty much.
Wow. It's just very interesting because as you were sharing there, you know, I started to think about those women who are like, they want to do it. They mean well. They really want to do it. They really want to change that lifestyle. They want to put things in place. They want to make it happen for them. But circumstances, you know, is what is getting in the way, you know, their current situation. How have you been able then to coach that person that is saying, okay, I know I need to eat healthier. I know I need to make healthier choices, but right now money is really a constraint for me. I don't have the finances to be able to purchase the necessary things. How are you able to help that person to see it from a different perspective or make it a bit more budget friendly that they can still have a healthy lifestyle and still gain the things that they're supposed to?
Firstly, I say it's okay. It's okay. It's good that you want to do all these things and achieve this goal, but it's okay. It's okay that you do not know how to navigate. It's okay that you're struggling. Remember, you're a human being first. So that's the first thing. And so you'll find that they relax, the anxiety goes down because you're like, okay, there's no bashing, right? And so the next step after just saying that it's okay, don't try and say, oh, I'm gonna have to get up and go to the gym or I'm gonna have to meal prep. Honestly, just making small steps can lead to huge impacts. It's called compound effect. So what you try to do is to incorporate it in your lifestyle, in what you already do. For example, let's say I'm a busy mom and I don't have time to work out. What you can do is that I normally ask, do you watch TV? Most persons do. I'm usually the weird one to not watch TV. Or do you watch YouTube? Yes. Do you cook? Yes. Well, while you're watching TV, can you do some steps? While you're watching the TV, can you march in place? And so what you find, it's easier now for you to do that because you're not having to make an additional time to get the exercise routine in because you're doing what you've already done. In terms of water, for example, walk with your water bottle. You're not doing anything extra. You're just going about your daily life, but because the water is there, honestly, it's in front of you. So you're reminded to drink your water. So what I'm saying is that you're incorporating health in what you already do. Don't cut out the fried foods. And it sounds weird. Don't stop drinking this or drinking that. What you want to focus on is adding the good things. If you start, for example, saying, I'm going to add more vegetables to my meal, you're still having your fried foods there. If you add more vegetables, after a while, you're going to realize that you're no longer going to be interested in that food because one, the vegetable is going to fill you up. The fiber is going to be there and it does something to your palate that you're no longer interested in that. So just doing those small steps will get you on the road. And if you're, for example, to say, okay, I watch the news for 50 minutes every night and I'm going to march in place until that ends, that will make a major difference for you. Major difference. And then when you, my sister is one to always say she doesn't have the time, but when she starts making these tweaks and then she feels how it feels, when you feel good, why do people get addicted to drugs? Because they love that feeling. So once you start feeling free, you start feeling light, your mind is becoming clearer, your skin starts to glow. Of course, I want more of this. And then naturally it just falls into place and rolls, the ball rolls.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And sometimes when this is happening, we love to see a success story because a success story shows us that results are there. So persons are getting results. And what I love about your story is that you have gotten the results because you shared earlier that through your own process, you were able to lose 60 pounds and reverse hypertension. And there are so many people out there right now who are struggling with high blood pressure and they don't know how to get this thing on the wraps and they're stuck with this medication from the doctor and they're taking it and so on. And so with that now, because you have the results, you are a success story. How are you promoting that story so that other persons too can see that they too can do what you have done?
Okay. So firstly, let me say that God is a God of order. A lot of times when persons hear me say I reverse hypertension or I've lost 60 pounds and I'm still on my journey, I'm not where I want to be, so I'm still going through the process. I mainly share it through my social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and Facebook. But there is no quick fix when it comes to God. The question that you have to ask is, do you want to do it God's way or the world's way? God's way, when you do it God's way, it may be slower depending on what it is that you're doing, but it lasts. It lasts. When you lose the weight, you're losing it for good. When you reverse whatever it is that you reverse, you're reversing it for good. And that's the difference. A quick fix, you get there and then you go back and even worse. And so when I say that God is a God of order, what I mean is this. You can't say, oh, I'm going to drink this tea and my blood pressure is going to go down. And then you're still doing the same things that got you in the blood pressure issues in the first place. So, it reminds me of the story when God healed the man and he said that he's empty. And with that vacancy, 7 more demons will come and attack him. If God is supposed to heal you with you doing the same thing that you're doing, you're going to either go back or even worse. So it's and I keep saying, I know it may sound redundant, but it's literally the same thing. Invite God in your journey. And it's, what's fascinating about the process? The principles are the same right across the board. Like for me, I told myself, I'm not going to focus on the scale. I need the scale, yes, as a means of record keeping, but I'm not focusing on the scale. And so it becomes easier. I don't work out and eat healthy from a place of guilt or shame. I do it from a place of surrender. Listen, I'm worthy. You are worthy. You are enough. You're valuable. I mean, do you realize what Jesus went through for you? I mean, that's how valuable you are. And so I say to myself, if somebody is willing to be tormented and tortured for me, I can't find 30 minutes for myself. I can't find 50 minutes for myself. It's almost ridiculous that you will say no. And so again, the principles are the same. Your nutrition, your exercise, your water, getting your sunshine, tapping into self-control, getting fresh air, resting, and trusting God through all of it. One of the ways that I've built my discipline is through fasting. Fasting, I realize that a lot of believers tend to focus on corporate fasting or Daniel's fast, and then it's over. But fasting should be a lifestyle. You know, in the Bible, it says when you fast, because we should be fasting. And so in you fasting, you're dying to the flesh daily. You're dying to the flesh during that process. And so as a matter of fact, during fasting, you know what I learned? We eat mainly out of habit. Most of the times we're not even hungry. So fasting helps to fuel your discipline. And I also give myself challenges. So for example, today is Wednesday. So today is Water Wednesdays. So on Wednesdays, we only drink water as our beverage and coconut water, no fruit juices, no tea. Well, you can have tea, but no added sugar. So just water. And that gives your body a light detox. So that another month I did no meat. And honestly, I lean on the Holy Spirit to give me these challenges. But what these things do is that it helps you to keep on track. It helps you to make it fun, and it doesn't feel like a burden. And it's usually small things that you can incorporate to get the goals that you actually want and desire. And when it comes to weight loss, let me say this: do not focus on the scale. Focus on how you look in terms of your clothes, because the scale may not move and you'll fit into a blouse that you couldn't before, or a dress that you couldn't before. So focus on other things apart from the scale. The scale is not a true representation.
Wow. This is good. I pray that somebody is catching this, because this is some really great information. And I love going right back to what you said earlier, in terms of someone who now has to, change that lifestyle of just including the vegetables or just whatever they're eating into what they're already eating, and then soon enough they're able to draw. I love that concept. I think that is a great concept to help persons who are struggling. And I love all the other challenges that you have in place too, as well, as a really great opportunity to, to just encourage those persons to get going. And so I have to ask, based on what you do in your coaching, are you focusing mainly on women, or is it that you're focusing on women and men as well?
My focus is Christian moms. So Christian women, but mainly Christian moms. And the reason for that is because the end goal is to create generational health. The truth is that the number one reason why people are dying worldwide and in the Caribbean is due to lifestyle illnesses. The number one killer, it's not crime, it's not natural disasters, it's heart disease. And when I learned that, I was shocked. But what it says is that, as I said, we're digging our graves with our knives and our forks. And if it is that you want to shift the generation, you want to look to children. But the main persons that cater to children are mothers. They're normally the nurturers. So they're normally the ones that would, do the bathing and the cooking and so forth, and tell them, hey, go and do this. So if I focus on Christian moms and I can get them right with God, then naturally it's gonna fall on, because even the men, usually it's the woman that is cooking for the man, because a lot of cases it's the wife that's making the man sick, because we're the one that's feeding him. So if you can fix the woman, you're fixing the household pretty much. So for me, it's not that I don't cater to men or I'm not interested in helping men. It's just that my vision, or the vision that God gave me, is to help, is to create generational health. And I realized that if the enemy can steal your health, then he can steal your destiny. Because you can have 99 problems, but the moment that you get sick, you only have one problem. And that's how to get better. If you are a strong prayer warrior and you get sick, you're no longer praying for all the people in your community. You're focusing on God heal me, and you're doing what you can to get healed. So Christian moms is the focus, because you help Christian moms to get it right, and you get the world right.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well said. You know, as you were also talking, so many things are running through my mind, but I have to ask this question. I know we're getting ready to wrap up soon, but I have to ask this question. As you went through this whole process, in terms of, helping other persons and so on, outside of the challenges that you've already shared, were there any other challenges or hindrances or blockages that would have affected you as you begin to build out, what you have been obviously mandated and called to do, grace to do? Were there any other challenges?
Oh yes, there's the challenges seem to not stop. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, it's like I'm being whipped and whipped, and it's just not stopping. Uh, One of the challenges that I went through was a lack of community. No, my best friend was my mom and my dad. So in losing my mom and my dad, it's like you ripped my entire world out of my hands. There was no one left. And then my cousins started migrating, so my family literally started shrinking. As I said, with regards to my marriage, separation. So there was no one really there. But you know what I've learned with regards to isolation? Isolation is different from separation. It's not isolation. People say, you got to go through isolation for elevation. That is wrong. God actually speaks against isolation. But what God will do is separate you from a season, not isolate you. So if you take a look, for example, on David went through a season of separation. He was no longer with his family. He was no longer with his regular community. He was running for his life. When you look at Joseph was separated from his family. When you look at Daniel was separated as well. Moses was separated when he went to and he found his wife and all that. He was separated. So what you find is that when you're separated, God is able to prune you. You're able to go through your cuttings, and it's hard. Oh my goodness, it is hard. Remember, for wine to come from grapes, they got to step on it and crush it. Crushing it ain't smooth. But you have to be broken, because God knows what's inside of you. You may not even know. People will see the light in you, but you're not aware. And so God sometimes will break you. He will squeeze you, and it's like pulling your teeth. Let's say you're afraid of going to the dentist, and so the dentist will say, okay, I'm going to give you anesthesia and I'm going to do this. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable. But what you find is that once you go through the process, the purpose comes out. Your teeth is whiter. You have a brighter smile. Your teeth are healthier. But it's just a matter of going through the pain. A lot of us, we resist the pain. We don't want to go through it. And yes, it hurts, but it's in going through the pain where purpose is birthed. And so the challenge of separation, it is very hard. Sometimes you just want somebody to talk to. Sometimes you just want a hug. And that is not easy to go through. But this is where you learn to depend on God. This is where you learn to trust God. This is where your faith is built. This is where you become unapologetic about who God created you to be. This is where you say, listen, I don't care if they're going to bash me on social media. I don't care if they're going to like me or not, because my focus is now God. Because when I was in that pit, he was the only one there. He was the only one, wiping the tears from my face. And so that separation, even though a challenge, It has to happen. It has to happen to get you where you need to be. And funny enough, where you need to be is where you want to be.
I love that. Beautiful, beautiful. Where you need to be is where you want to be. Wow, beautiful, beautiful. And so as we are coming to, like, because you said you had to deal with so many different things that was happening. I love how you broke down that separation. You highlighted there just now, about the separation that you would have dealt with your husband. Can you elaborate a bit more on that for us?
So, first, I'm not a marriage expert because I'm not there yet. But what I've learned with regards to marriage and separation is that your spouse is not the enemy. The enemy is the enemy. So firstly, we always say, Christ needs to be foundation, but we are not praying for our marriage. We're not praying for our partners. We also need to understand a covenant is a covenant. It's not you and your partner. It's you, your partner, and God. The reason why God hates divorce is because you are being ripped. You're breaking that covenant. And which is really what backsliding is. You're breaking the covenant or the contract between you and God. So when it comes to marriage, you want to pray for your marriage. Even when you don't, you're like, what do I even pray? Because I'm not the problem. And it's so funny. We're always never the problem. When I went to God about my marriage, he transformed me. And I remember when the tables were turning and he was saying, I'm not going to change your circumstances until I change you. I was like, change me? I'm not the issue. You have this all wrong. But God wanted me to focus on him. You see, your marriage is also an example to others to win them to Christ. So it's not just me, people looking at me and saying, hey, it's not just about the sermon. It's not about what you say. The way how you love each other is a representation of how Christ loves you. And so God says, when you love each other, people will see me. So in me loving, my brother, my sister, my spouse, people will see the love of Christ. And that's what it's really about. So your marriage is a ministry. Now, some marriages God may not ordain, but it's a covenant. And so you go back to him and let him deal with it. Always go back to God and let him deal with it. And ask the question, what's the lesson that God is trying to teach me through my marriage? Someone said to me that if you want to know if your partner is the right one, well, one of the things you look for is that they should be leading you to Christ. And for me, I'm like, well, that answers that, because he's not leading me to Christ at all. But I'm like, well, not the way I thought. When you hear that, you think he's going to say, hey, honey, let us go and pray. Or, hey, honey, let's do a fast. Because I had to run to God. So that was the difference for me. But my tip is to understand that the enemy is the enemy, target the enemy, and also ask yourself, how can I represent Christ? Because marriage is not easy. It is hard. It's about serving. So even if you just had an argument, it's about you representing Christ. It's about you being the light to your partner if they're not there yet. So he could have done something wrong or she could have done something wrong, and you still have to serve because this is what Christ would do. So that is not easy. And I say that marriage is hard because it's not a boyfriend-girlfriend thing where something goes wrong and you can get up and say, listen, this is not working out. It's the end. No, you are stuck. You are stuck there to work it out. And really, it's based on you growing. And that's what a lot of persons run from, the growth. Because you growing, it's an uncomfortable process. So marriage forces you to grow. It forces you to face people say demons. I'm not gonna say I have any demons, but it forces you to focus on the things that you may have not gotten right or your weaknesses, so you can build on them, and that's what people run from. So marriage is not easy because it pushes you to growth, but isn't that good?
Absolutely, absolutely. That is good. You know, it's amazing because from the time you started to talk about marriages, I don't know what is happening, but the other day he just kicked up dust. And you know, for some reason we started having some technical difficulties on the show, but continue to bear with me because we will continue to persevere regardless of whatever it is that is happening. And I love what you said there because that's important. That's key. Those are essential things for us to know, especially as a couple. And in your case, you said, I love what you said, when you went to God thinking that it was all Him, God said, let's work on some things concerning you. So that's a really, really good takeaway for us to understand that sometimes we are pointing the fingers at others. Meanwhile, God is saying, let's see if there's something happening on your end so that we can work together and get things done and get you in the place where both of you need to be. And so we're coming close to an end. And of course, I have to ask this question. You know, tell us a little bit more about what you're working on, what is coming up next for you, and what can we expect from Lacey-Ann.
Yes, so we are coming to the end. And indeed, when it comes to marriage, there is an attack on marriage because if the enemy can break, marriages, it's breaking the family unit, it's breaking the home. So when you break the home, you're breaking society because you're breaking your children, and the impacts of that is going towards them. So what I'll say is fight for your marriage, and you fight you fight knowing that your focus is to glorify God. Fight as hard as you can. There's some that God may say that you should walk away from, but at the end of the day, at least you gave it your all and God led you to that decision. But marriage is remember, the reason why the enemy targets marriage is because marriage is a representation of Jesus, and the church is. And so anything that is representing God, then the enemy is going to fight that. And so once you get married, understand that you are signing up for battle. You are enlisting in the army to go to war because the enemy is going to come. And he comes in many different ways. He comes in the form of attacking your health. It could be finances, but he's coming. And but don't be fearful about it. God said He gave us power over every scorpion and serpent, and there's nothing that the enemy can throw at you that you will be shaken from. So you trust in that and hold on to God, knowing that He has you all the way, and He's not gonna let you down, and He will never fail you. And that's what marriage is: holding on to God.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. As we get ready to head on out, tell us what is coming up next for you. Tell us what we can expect to hear, that is happening with Lacey-Ann, that those persons who are tuning in now that may want to join you or to support you can do so.
Well, the next big thing that I'm working on is actually publishing the book, Living Healthy is Godly, your guide to losing weight and reversing lifestyle illnesses for good. So that's the next big thing. And I'm looking to get that done between January or February of next year. I also am working on getting my podcast up and running. But right now, what I'm doing is medical missionary work. In Jamaica, we just had our hurricane. There are a lot of persons who are in despair, they're broken, they're lost. And it's not just a physical loss. People are stuck mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And what can comfort someone better than the word of God? So now is the time for me to go in the field and win souls for God, make the kingdom wealthy while you are literally healing them. Well, I'm not doing the healing, the Holy Spirit is, but he's doing the healing through the word of God, and also giving them practical steps with things that you can possibly find around you to get better. But nothing, I mean, I was saying to someone, you know, God can still bring manna from the heavens. We just have to have that faith. And while care packages are needed and food and water is needed, spiritual food is also needed, because you can be so depressed that you have no appetite for food, and only God can bring you out of that. So definitely you can find all the information of my releases and what's coming up and what I'm doing on my Instagram page, Faithfully Lace Fit. So you can definitely follow me there. I always share things there, and follow my stories, because there's sometimes things that I'll post in my stories of my day-to-day life that is not on my feed. But definitely you can follow me on Instagram to stay up to date.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And if you want to contact her directly, her WhatsApp number is on the screen. Those of you who are tuning in right now, you want to learn more about, you know, what this medical missionary looks like. Maybe you may be interested in being a part of that drive, or you may even want to, you know, purchase a book when her book is out. Go ahead, take the number off the screen so that you can contact her and you can learn more about what she is doing out there, making such a great impact in many lives. She's starting from the home. She's starting from the inside out, you know, to make a difference. And I really want to commend you for the work that you're doing. I want to encourage you to continue to keep going, no matter what it may look like, because you're definitely making an impact and you're changing lives, and not just lives, but generations. Because once you help a family, that's a generation right there. You're restoring a bloodline, and it takes a lot to do that, and you're graced for it. And so I want to encourage you to continue doing the good work that you are doing. Just before we go, Lacey-Ann, you know, if there's anything that maybe you want to share, maybe I didn't get an opportunity to answer that question, but you're like, ooh, I wish I said that. I want to give you that opportunity to have those last words before we go.
Okay, sure. My last word would be just to encourage you. You know, no matter what it is that you are going through, this too shall pass. This too shall pass, because there's light at the end of the tunnel. Night doesn't last forever. Day comes tomorrow. So trust in the fact that tomorrow the sun is going to be out again. And this too shall pass. You may be on the mountain, but understand that this too shall pass, because life is all about seasons. And you're either in a storm, you're coming out of a storm, or you're about to get in a storm. So my message for you tonight is to know that this too shall pass, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. And not just that, know that going through everything, Jesus is with you, and we should all be focusing on glorifying God no matter what it is we do. Eat or drink, sleep, whatever it is, we should all be doing it for the glory of God. So let's decide today to be the sermon, not just encouraging and speaking and, you know, giving doctrines and lectures, but let's decide today to be the sermon. We're going to eat good, we're going to live good, and we're going to stay faithful.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Listen, you just heard it right here from Lacey-Ann. She shared her story with us. You know, what a powerful story of how God has done transformation in her life, and now using her to help transform other lives. You know, it's amazing. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for being transparent. Thank you for being open, and thank you for sharing your story with us. For those of you who are tuning in here for the first time, I want to thank you for tuning in. And for those persons who will come again, and you know, you may catch the replay, I want to encourage you to share this link with a friend. Maybe they didn't get an opportunity to tune in at the time where we were here live, but they can definitely catch this replay, because there's so many gems that Lacey-Ann has shared with us here tonight that can definitely impact and help to bring transformation. So go right ahead and share. Now, if you're new to Battered Bruised, Not Broken, we are on season 9, getting ready to head into season 10. Can you imagine that? Season 10. When we get to season 10, where it's just going to be amazing. That's happening next year, March. And so we have one more episode to come before we close off this season. And that episode is coming next Wednesday. I want to invite you to bring a friend, bring a family member, bring a next door neighbor, be here so that you can hear what that powerful woman has to share. Also, if you're watching right now and you have a powerful story and you're like, ooh, I want to share my story so I can also impact other women too as well, I want to invite you to go right ahead and just send us an email at our email address. You should see it on the screen. That's queensmindset.qm@gmail.com. Send us an email right there and let us know of your interest so that we can have you on this show so you can tell your story, impact, and change lives just the same too as well. If you want to learn more information about what we do at Queen's Mindset, just go right ahead to our website at www.queensmindset.net. And once again, I want to say thank you for tuning in here tonight, and I'm looking forward to see you next week, same time, same place, but with another powerful woman. Whatever you do, have an amazing night, and we'll talk to you very soon. Goodbye.
You see me battered, bruised, but never broken. Through the fire, hope still spoken. There's a strength inside me that keeps me strong. So I'll keep pushing, I'll keep holding on. Through it all, I won't fall. I've got power, standing tall. Battered, bruised, but not broken. I'm unshaken, feel unshaken.